Hello YouTube, this is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so this is where I'm living, August 8th of 2023, and this is the solar flash update for August 8th. If you're watching this live in other parts of the world, it still might be August 7th. So there is another solar storm which is headed for Earth. Sorry, I just swallowed some liquid and it went down the wrong pipe. And we've got, I think, one or perhaps two coronal mass ejections scheduled to hit Earth right about now. Today I want to talk to you about the 5D Earth frequency. We spend a lot of time on this channel talking about all of the crazy stuff that's been going on, that's been hidden from sight, all of the lies surrounding the unprecedented attention on UFOs and aliens. But today I want to be talking about more positive things about where we're headed. I'm going to once again go over some information given to me by extraterrestrials who guided me to interact with higher dimensional beings who showed me secret teachings about the truth of what we in the third dimension would call God. I'm going to teach you the secret of entering 5D Earth. We're going to talk about the simple reason, unfortunately, perhaps why some people will not enter 5D, and you'll be amazed at how simple it is and how simple it is for you to reverse that. Anybody can do it. By the way, everybody listening to me, if you want to go to the new 5D Earth that is perhaps splitting away from our current 3D Earth, it's very simple to do. Anybody can do it. Opens up the question of, are there other Earths besides what we would call 5D? Is there a 6D Earth, a 7D or 8D Earth? Are there multiple Earth dimensions? Will some people be able to skyrocket past 5D into other dimensions? And I'm going to talk to you about my views on how life will change in the new Earth. And then we'll discuss, perhaps, if I get to it, hopefully, when will the 5D window close? So that's what we're talking about today. Once again, this is the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. Welcome back. And yes, I am now completely, totally off the deep end in terms of, pretty much everything. And even I am surprised at the things that I talk about, the things that I'm examining, the things that I'm open to believing, and certainly my experiences have gone through the roof. I hope that you come onto this channel with a willingness to do what is necessary for your own maximum empowerment. I hope you're willing to look at things that might be less than comfortable to look at. And I hope you're willing to do some very simple but powerful actions which can, in this case, make the determination between you shifting down into a lower, even more dense version of our current Earth, or be perhaps lifted up to a heaven on earth situation. Those will be done as a result of actions that you take. It's not going to be done through thinking. And if you watch a lot of the, I'm still trying to find channels on YouTube that talk about the things that we're talking about and give me the feeling that they know what they're talking about. My experience with the majority of it is that it is conflated fantasies from, New Age wannabes. I think a lot of it is people taking advantage of people's sincere desire to understand this, and people manipulating it and using it to gain fame, money, whatever. I think there's just a lot of stuff in between, and so it's challenging, for somebody like me who's having these experiences and coming to these conclusions. It's challenging because, I wish that there was a big body of followers and a big body of knowledge out there that you could depend on. I haven't found that except in maybe one or two places. So what I've come to find out is that in order to accomplish the things that I talk about, you have to be willing to take some actions. And that is what I provide for you here on this channel. So before you do anything else, take note of all of the links that you see on the screen. Please don't ask me things like, where can I find your books, when you haven't even gone and typed in my name, Michael William Denny, into Amazon to see where my books are. Please don't ask me, how can I get that? How can I get that if you haven't gone to the links that are here? The one set of practices that I recommend the most can be found here at thunderwizard.com. If you subscribe at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, you will be given complete guidance and instruction to do very simple things which are guaranteed to shift the vibration in your body and your psyche and in the cells of your physical being. This will begin the process to shift you up. So it is the easiest, most effective way that I have found. My experience is that people try to think their way into feeling better. They try to think their way into higher dimensional thoughts. That's, by the way, that's the reason why people say that smoking weed, for example, is a way of meditating. It's a complete misunderstanding of what meditation is. They believe if they change their thinking that everything else will change, and your thinking won't change unless you change. Nothing externally will do it for you. However, the good news is there are physical things you can do which actually function within quantum physics that flip off switches on a quantum level that begin to shift your physical body and your nervous system and your kundalini and your chakras into a higher dimensional vibration. And in order for you, your psyche, your identity to go along with it, you will have to shift and change. And that is a lot easier than having to sit there and try and think your way into changing, because it won't work. So before we get into, which I'm about to do, get into some of these topics here, I just want to let you know that that's what this channel is about. If you go onto the channel page, the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel page, type in Thunder Wizard at the bar at the top of YouTube, you'll see my channel page. Go there and look at the playlists. There are playlists that will take you into guided interdimensional meditations, which will, trust me, if you do them, you will experience things you haven't even thought were possible. There are energy practices, there are meditations, there's all kinds of stuff for free. Now, if you're like me, I needed specific guidance. And if you want the really high-level elite stuff, which anybody can do, you don't have to spend time preparing yourself. I've created a process where you just got here and you know nothing. Good, you show up and you just practice, follow the instructions. What's that? You're a master meditator and you're a Qigong master? Same thing. Follow this practice. Everybody that's done this practice, who has been lifelong Tai Chi masters, yoga masters, Qigong masters, they have said to me, and I'm quoting here, I've never experienced such a high vibrational energy, and I've been doing this stuff my whole life. So it doesn't matter whether you've done it before or not done it before. Go here and subscribe. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. It's that simple. All right, let's get back to what we're talking about here. So, solar flash, if you're new to the channel, the solar flash is a term that I didn't make up, of course. It came about a long time ago. And a lot of people, I don't know where they came up with this, dreams, near-death experiences. I mean, it's coming from all different, hypnosis, ayahuasca. I don't know where people are coming up with what I came to find out to be true, but a lot of people have come to this conclusion that there's going to be an event, which people call the ascension event, where the earth is going to be hit with high vibrational light waves, which will be coming from the earth, which will be coming from the sun, and the sun will be somehow channeling energy from the center of our galaxy. The black hole at the center of our galaxy will be channeling high vibrational energy through our sun, which will hit us in the form of solar radiation. And it has been said that this is called the solar flash, and the result of this solar light hitting the earth will shift us, the entire world, up to a higher dimensional level. That's what the solar flash is. I learned about it directly from communicating with higher dimensional beings, which, if you want to know what is he talking about? Where does he get this information? You're new to the channel, you don't know. Go onto my channel and search for a video. You can go, I think there's an aliens playlist, and search for the video that is called How I Became an Extraterrestrial. And you will see video and audio evidence of me having interactions with higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings. That started a process that's lasted up until this day, so it's been over a year. June 2022 is when it started, when I reached out to them and they responded. They specifically told me that there was going to be a worldwide event that was going to be seen in the sky, and the result of it is that people would believe that God was coming, whatever religion you are, and then they would very quickly find out, oh, this goes far beyond religion. There'd be an instant awareness that their religion was not accurate. They would go beyond to understand the true spiritual nature of the universe. And I asked them afterwards, I said, what is this event going to be? Fleets of spaceships? They said, no. It's going to be a series of solar waves of love coming from the sun that will hit the earth in waves, and these waves of love will lift the world up to the next level. I then talked about it on the channel, thinking nobody had ever heard of this, and people said, no, that's a thing. It's called the ascension. It's called the event. It's called the solar flash. And sure enough, a lot of people were talking about it. Well, we are in the solar flash. The solar wave event officially started, and this isn't coming from me or from anything I read. This is what I was told. I mean, on December 21st, 2022, I got the message very early in the morning. I think it was a Sunday morning. I can't remember what day it was. But I got woken up by higher dimensional beings who were telling me it's officially begun. There's no turning back now. And that day we got hit with a solar storm, and I went into other dimensions and blah, blah, blah. And so then there were some very strong solar storms in March that hit the earth. And once again, my higher dimensional friends came to me and said, there's no turning back now. This is it. They were celebrating because the solar wave event had gotten to a crescendo where it had pushed past some timeline barrier or something like that that I don't completely understand, but it went beyond that. And they said, that's it. It's begun. it's just a matter of time. Hang on. Everything's going to change. Everything's going to go away. Everything that you understand about human society and the way the world works is going away. All of it. And they were very excited about that for us. And it has been my experience that ever since then, every time we get hit with one of these solar storms, what will happen is I will see in society, in media, in people in general, there is a shift. People are becoming aware. They are waking up to their own indoctrination, to the lies, to the hypnotism, to the narrative. They're becoming aware of, what they've believed and what they've seen and what they've been told just isn't true. Fewer and fewer people are believing anything from the mainstream media, anything from government, anything from big pharma. People are disconnecting from that narrative every day. People, all kinds of things I'm watching happen. And at the same time, whenever we get hit with one of these storms, I will see over the following days and weeks, there will be more and more exposure of the corruption and the lies from big corporate structures, the connection to, who is really running this world, who is running the narrative. And as this has been going on, I have been getting more and more hints about what this shift, what this event is going to be. So as I've said before, I'm going to tell you again, what I'm going to share with you isn't something that I personally would think was a good idea. I resisted, and I still have some resistance to a lot of the stuff I'm going to share with you. So again, I'm not sharing with you stuff I read somewhere. I'm not going off of what some other channel or, I'm going directly off of my personal experience as well as the messages that are coming to me. And if I distill it down into something very simple, what so far, and I'm willing to change my opinion on this, I don't need to be right about any of this. But so far, what it seems to me and what I've been told is going to happen is that these solar waves, as they continue to hit the Earth, coincidentally, we're going through a solar maximum number 25. I don't know why they call it number 25, but it's the 25th solar maximum event where the sun is shifting the magnetic poles. And the result of that is heightened solar storms, solar flares, coronal mass ejections into all of the solar system, and some of it is hitting Earth. That these solar storms are going to continue. They're probably going to increase in intensity, and they will culminate in the Earth splitting into two different Earths. There will be a time, as I understand it, where the Earth that we know of will be in the middle. There will be a higher Earth that will be forming, and there will be a lower Earth that will be forming. And it's the result of the Earth that we're in splitting into two. I didn't understand this when it was first presented to me. In fact, when people asked me about it early on, I would get angry and I would get offended. And, with self-righteous anger, I would say, how dare you say that? Are you saying that some people aren't going to make it? They're going to be rejected? I can't accept that. I couldn't accept the idea that some people wouldn't make it to this new Earth. I'm now changing my opinion on that, which we're going to talk about. I couldn't deny the messages that were coming to me, so I asked in meditation. I talked to some higher dimensional beings, and I said, explain this to me. Because I'm a rational person, and I don't understand how Earth can split. None of that makes sense to me. I personally and morally don't like the idea of that. But I also can't understand it on a conceptual level. Help me understand. How is this going to happen? What I was told was, imagine sunlight. Sunlight comes in and it hits a cloud, it hits, rain, and it turns into a rainbow. Imagine pure sunlight hitting a prism. When it hits a prism, it splits into the colors of the rainbow. Now, the rainbow isn't, multiple rainbows. It's only one stream of light coming in. And that one stream of white light has different colors. Each one of those colors is a different frequency. Each one of the earths is going to be a different frequency. It's going to be a frequency at a higher or a lower octave, but it's going to be the same earth. So there's technically only one earth. But as this light comes in, it splits off into these varying colors of the rainbow. And you choose which color, which frequency you want to live at. And those that choose to vibrate at the higher level will be at a higher octave. And those that choose not to go to a higher level, they will end up vibrating at a lower octave. As I understand it, again, I don't know. I don't know. I know that I'm finding information from some sources that I trust. At least I trust, their sincerity. I don't take anything at face value, but I trust their sincerity. But the higher beings that have been talking to me have been sort of stepping up the messages. And in one message, telepathically, I was being told that when you shift, people will think on this earth, they'll think that you've died. I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's going to be like a lower, body, of mine. They're going to find my lower dimensional body, dead body somewhere. Or if that means that I will just have disappeared and they will assume that I've died. I'm more increasingly asked when I go deeper into meditation. They'll say, are you ready to come home? Are you ready to shift up? And when I practice and I say, yes, I'm ready, and I imagine myself leaving this body behind, the energy becomes very intense. One of the ways it was explained in somebody's experience was that you'll dream about it. You'll dream about the new earth, or you'll meditate, you'll imagine it, you'll fantasize about the new earth. And then one day you'll go to sleep and you'll wake up and you'll be in that new place. Another person said that you can do it by making a ritual, sitting at home, lighting some candles, doing some meditation, some mantras, and very clearly making the decision that you want to go to the new earth. And then after the ritual's over, you'll look outside and you realize things are different. Maybe it's almost the same, but there's few things that are different. The light is brighter. So I'm coming to the conclusion that this is what's happening. I can't say that I understand it. I can't even say that I like it. It's not a comfortable idea, and it certainly isn't something that my rational brain accepts easily. But when you take into account everything that has come to light, anything is possible. My favorite Mandela Effect. There's the two favorites of mine, Mandela Effect. One is that the Earth, when I was younger, just 20 years ago and earlier, the Earth, if you talked to astronomers at NASA and you said, where is Earth located? They would say that The Earth is located on the very outer spiral edge of the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy. It's on the very outskirts of the galaxy. And you know, there were pictures, you could buy them, posters, "You are here." And it would point to just the very outer edge of the galaxy. And then sometime within the last 10 or 20 years, you know, even notable, there's videos, YouTube videos of notable, you know, what's that guy, Tyson something, I forget his name. Astrophysicists, there are videos of them saying that Earth is in the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy. And if you now go and talk, you go online, go to NASA, go anywhere and ask, where is the Earth? They will tell you the Earth is on the complete other side of the galaxy, halfway in the small spur of the Orion arm, which would mean that the Earth has moved 73,000 miles. Excuse me, 73,000 light years. Sorry. Yeah, 73,000 light years, I believe. So if that can happen, you know, and my second favorite Mandela Effect is the Burns and Allen TV show from the 1950s. If you're probably, most of you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, but it's a very famous, ubiquitous television show of these two people, very famous in comedians from the 1930s all the way up through the 50s and 60s. And they had a television show, and at the end of each television show, they would come out on stage, Burns and Gracie, and George Burns would look at Gracie and he would say goodnight, Gracie. And her character was that she was this ditzy, not very smart woman, and she would say, "Good night, Gracie." And now all of those films have changed. Every single one of those. And she never said that now. And it's not because somebody went in and re-edited it. It's because it's actually, history has changed. And she now says, "Good night." He'll say good night, Gracie. And she says, "Good night." And I promise you that is not what happened. When I see those things, it's impossible for me to take reality as a fixed, rational thing, as I always have. I'm a very rational person, son of a physicist. So I believe in science, and I believe in what only what I can see. I only believe in what I can see and what I can prove. When those two things are undeniable, then I know that nothing in this reality is fixed. And so that, combined with everything else that I've gone through, leads me to believe that the Earth shifting up into multiple octaves, multiple frequencies, there are multiple frequencies of the same Earth, that is as believable as Gracie Allen never having said, "Good night, Gracie." It's just as plausible. And there are other things that the ETs have done that I cannot deny. They have made some very clear messages telling me there's going to be multiple octaves, multiple vibrations of Earth. And you get to choose which one you want to live on. So let's talk about the 5D Earth frequency. Now, way back a year ago when I was completely losing my mind because I did human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials, which was called CE5, the letter C, the number E, the number 5. Go look it up. Don't ask me to tell you what it is. You can look it up yourself, and there's multiple ways to find out what CE5 protocols are. Human-initiated contact with extraterrestrials. When I did that and I was successful, I had daily daily visitations from ETs from multiple dimensions, multiple societies, multiple civilizations, multiple locations in the universe. And they were coming to beaming into my house on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times a day. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and there would be light beings doing energy work on me, and I thought I was losing my mind. It was a very challenging period. And it was very blissful and wonderful all at the same time. It was just, things were so unbelievable. It was very hard to stay grounded. And at one point, when I asked about this shift to 5D and all of that, which they, by the way, they never call it 5D. We call it that. It's just a word we use. They don't call it that. But when they were talking about this shift, they said, one day they said to me, "We're coming for you tonight." I didn't know what that meant. It scared the crap out of me. I thought that spaceships were gonna land on my backyard, and I was prepared. I was prepared to climb onto a spaceship. They said they're coming for me. I'm ready to go. That's not what they meant. But they said, "We're going to take you to the higher dimension. We're going to take you to the shift. You'll be the first." These were the messages that I was getting. Sure enough, they showed up. Of course, phased just out of 3D. Can't physically see them, but I'm getting bombarded with these energies and with these messages. And what ended up happening is that my energy, my physical energy in my body, shifted up to another level, and I felt like I was high on mushrooms. Now, I've never taken mushrooms, so I'm guessing what that is. But I know that DMT in my brain was being released at an unprecedented level. That's important because DMT, the reason why people do ayahuasca and mushrooms is because they're force-feeding DMT into their body. And DMT is a gateway. By the way, I want to be clear, I don't think it's a good idea to ingest anything. It messes with the glands of the brain. It's very harmful to the physical body. It's extremely damaging to the energy body. People, when they have to crack themselves open to have realizations, go do it maybe once or twice in a lifetime. But outside of that, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a bad idea. However, DMT, the chemical itself, is naturally released in the brain when you do spiritual exercises like the ones that I teach. Kundalini yoga, high-level qigong, high-level meditation. But the 2 times in your life when DMT is released in the greatest concentrations are at birth and death. And that's because DMT is a gateway. And people who force feed themselves DMT, again, I don't recommend it. They will talk about entering into other dimensions and communicating with, this is the whole thing about machine elves and all of that, is they've tapped into another dimension. Now, of course, people come back from those trips and they have no clue where they've been. They don't even know if it's real or not. So it's another thing when you're completely conscious and DMT starts being released in your brain to the level where you start to shift into another dimension while you're still in your physical body and you're not under the influence of some drug. That's what happened to me. When they came to me and they said, we are going to take you there. What they meant was that they were, I don't know how they did it, but they downloaded a whole heck of a lot of what we would call 5D energy into my body. And I was completely conscious, functional, walking around, but everything was different. I mean, it was the same, but the light was brighter, but it wasn't hurting my eyes. There was a glow over everything. There were colors that I don't really know exist in the 3rd dimension. I had this connection to everything. I spent a lot of time on the beach that afternoon. I was in Florida, and I could feel my energy going all the way down into the earth. I could feel my energy going up into the clouds. I was communicating with all of these energies. I was communicating with the plants, of course, not on a verbal level. The animals, people and their dogs. I mean, people and their babies. I could see and be in all of those beings and feel all of them, and I knew that they were all my family. I was part of, and the level of love that was coming out of me was unreal. And that happened, and I'll get into a little bit more when we get into some other questions. What is it that prevents people from shifting? I'll explain that, because I learned that as well. Of course, it's all in hindsight. As I look back on it and I meditate on it, I've come to realize what was going on. So now enough time has gone by that I realized that they really did shift me up to a higher octave of earth. I don't think I was invisible to the people around me. I think people could see me. I wasn't talking to anybody because I was so into it. I didn't want to freak anybody out, because I wanted to run up to everybody and hug them and pick up their babies and pet their dogs, and I didn't want to freak anybody out. But I was filled with such incredible love and peace and happiness and joy and bliss. And the energy that was vibrating through my body was, I've been doing energy work, esoteric, very powerful esoteric energy work my whole life, and I'd never felt anything like this. And that lasted for a few hours, and then it slowly faded out. And I'm not quite sure I knew what that all meant or what was going on. During all of this time that I was getting these daily visitations and downloads and energy, they were putting all this energy into me. I thought my life was going to be like that for the rest of my life. I thought, well, this is my life now. Looking back on it now, what was happening is that they were initiating me, a crash course into all kinds of things, including energy, vibrational levels, dimensional levels. So fast forward to 6, 8, 9 months later, and I'm now, things have calmed down. I'm not getting nearly the amount of visitations. I now have this whole meditative practice which is what interdimensional meditation is, where I'm going to these higher dimensions in my meditations, and I'm able to get this energy into my body and communicate with deities and entities on all different kinds. All kinds of stuff is going on. Not as many extraterrestrial light beings beaming into my house anymore. That's backed off a lot. But what ends up happening is, because of that, because I wasn't being thrust into continuous physical contact with higher dimensional beings, I started slipping back into feeling like I was more into the third dimension. And then I'm like doubting all of it. And I'm thinking about all of these things, and I'm having a hard time believing it. I'm having a hard time accepting it. And so one day, as I'm meditating, I think they said they were Pleiadians. Again, I'm not into this Pleiadian, Arcturian channeling stuff. I think most of that is just pure, complete nonsense. So when beings show up and they say they're Pleiadians, I go. But they said, how can we help you? What do you want? Can we help you in any way? And I said, yeah, I need to know this 5D thing is real. Can you show it to me? Can you take me there? And they didn't say anything, and they left. They were very, okay, they were very nice, but they didn't give me a yes or a no, and they left. But sure enough, the next day, same thing. I started shifting up to that other level, and I was walking around. This time I was out in public out here walking around, and same exact scenario. And I said, oh, I guess they heard me. And I have two distinct experiences where it was undeniable. It was a direct response to either my request or my need to understand something. So I can go from my experience that this stuff is real. And I have enough personal experience that if they tell me, so you're going to shift up to another level and you won't be at the earth you're on now. The earth you're on now isn't going to exist anymore. You'll be on a different earth. I'm willing to accept it. Even if my mind can't believe it or understand it, I'm willing to accept it. So, I was going to talk about the hidden truth of God. We'll get to that later. The secret of entering 5D Earth, and the simple reason some will not enter 5D. So when I was in these states, what I found is that it wasn't like what people do when they take mushrooms. They are forced into another reality, whether they like it or not. It was voluntary. The energy was hitting me. My body was shifting to another level. But I had the choice to dial it up or dial it down. And if I focused on my heart center, and if I focused on the energy that was buzzing in my heart, and if I focused on the feelings, which were feelings of tremendous unconditional love and acceptance and connection, and when I would invest in that, when I would indulge in that feeling, if you will, and people, if somebody walked by, if I made the decision to think to myself, this is one of my family members, this is somebody connected to me, that is a God who is in avatar human form. And I would imagine, wanting to, just with my energy, help shift them up. When I got into that mindset, the energy would begin increasing. And it would increase to whatever level I was willing to tolerate. And when it started feeling like I was, either uncomfortable or going beyond my capability to understand, or, thinking that I might just, disappear out of my body, I might stop at some point. But if I wanted to focus on anything more mundane, like how much money do I have in the bank and do I have to pay taxes, the energy would start to scale back. And if I chose to think of something negative, like if I started to think about a judgment I had towards somebody, or self-devaluing thought, the energy would go to almost zero. And so because it felt a lot better to be in the happier spot, I would focus on loving people unconditionally, seeing people as avatars and deities, and thinking about 5D. And I would repeat, little mantras to myself, Shivoham, which means I am Shiva, or, I am one with everything. I would repeat those kinds of things. Everybody is my family member, something like that. And then the energy would increase again, and the energy in my heart. Or if I relaxed into the feeling of love without thinking anything, the energy would increase. But the moment that I would collapse into something negative or something mundane, the energy would go down. So I started to learn that I could choose to shift that energy up and down. That's important because that is not something that I feel that I've had throughout my life as a human. The experience I've had of being a human is that, a negative feeling comes up and that's it. You're in it. You can choose how to act and react to it, but in terms of the feeling's not going to go away. I can't make the feeling go away. I can take actions which will reduce the likelihood of those feelings coming up, but, the feeling comes up, the thoughts come up. I really don't have any control over those things. I have control over my actions and, what I choose to invest my energy into. And that wasn't my experience with these 5D instances. when these 5D instances come, I had a clear choice. I could choose to go into the feelings of love and the energy would increase, or I could choose to collapse into more of a negative 3D mindset and the energy would dissipate. It was completely up to me. So the way that I look at that is this. Every time that I get hit, I'm telling you from my personal experience, I can tell when solar storms are hitting the Earth, at least where I'm at. You know, there might be differing levels of solar energy on different parts of the Earth at any given time from these storms, but I can tell when solar storms are hitting the Earth where I'm at. And when that happens, my first physical and psychological response is to feel aggravated and anxious. And if I just simply let that run, I will go into a very negative state of mind and I will feel physically uncomfortable and I will be emotionally on edge and be worried about the slightest little thing. And that is because my third dimensional frequency is clashing with this higher dimensional frequency that's hitting. And what I've learned to do is when I feel that and I go, oh, I can feel the solar energy hitting me. Sometimes I'll feel it in my heart center in a good way, but there will be combined with that, you know, all of the anxiety and the anger and the fear and the other stuff that's coming out of nowhere, which of course then you start looking for problems in your life. This is, by the way, what most people do. Most people worry about things like money and what people think because they're already uncomfortable and they're looking for something to justify the negative feeling inside of them. This is what happens when you drink alcohol. You know, people drink alcohol wanting to feel better because they're uncomfortable, and really all it does is it gives you this ability to then focus on, you know what your problem is. You know, the goddamn government with all the, you know, and then people get off on their victim mentality and it just becomes this self-feeding hamster wheel. But what I've learned to do with this energy when it hits is that I'll go into the hool breath. And I will instantly shift from feeling anxious and uncomfortable to incredibly relaxed and blissful. And the energy is the same. The only question is whether or not I am fighting it. If I choose not to fight the energy as it comes, it will create bliss in me, and I'll go and do interdimensional meditation, and I have my best interdimensional meditations when I'm getting hit with solar radiation. But if people don't know how to do that, and they are, you know, they're people who respond to life based on their survival mechanism of needing to control things, anger, control, fear, victim mentality. You know, people who are doing lots of drugs, drinking, trying to escape their feelings. People, in short, who don't have a method to face and deal with their unresolved psychological issues. When this solar energy hits, their first response is going to be to fight it, which will bring them down into that place of anger, fear, and anxiety. And they won't know how to let go of that. Because the truth is, if that's all you've lived all your life, when you actually experience unconditional love, it will be the most frightening thing you've ever experienced. Because what you don't realize, if you're somebody who has a victim mentality, you believe, people still want to get on my case about this, but I'm not going to shut up about it. You still believe that there are false beings of light trying to trap you. In other words, you're not responsible for your life. Somebody else is doing it to you. And now it's gotten to the point where higher beings of light are doing it to you. If you believe in evil reptilians are controlling you and have done all kinds of things to create human beings and alter their DNA to turn them into a slave race, then when this higher dimensional energy hits you, you are going to respond by being angry, afraid, full of self-pity, and because you believe that protects you. This is a human thing. It's not just you. We all have it. I have it. It's the third dimensional frequency. To shift out of that third dimensional frequency means you take full responsibility for everything in your life and for all of the feelings that you have. If you're not willing to do that, then what's going to happen is, we're just talking some physics here. When that higher dimensional energy hits, which is trying to shift you up to another level, you will respond by clenching up, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. You will be stimulated to focus on negative things, to be angry, to be self-righteous, to be a victim, and that will shift you down. So a lot of people are freaking out. I mean, I was walking down, a beautiful path in the forest here, and some guy came around the corner, didn't see me, and he was just cussing and screaming. He was clearly losing his mind until he saw me, and I felt for him. I knew we were getting hit by solar radiation. I felt bad for the guy because he didn't know how to deal with it. All he knew was he felt he was being attacked. That's the feeling that comes. So the very simple reason why some will not enter 5D is because they simply won't relax into the energy. So here are some things that will happen if you relax into the energy. If you have unresolved trauma, you may begin weeping. You may start crying for no reason. You may become very sad about things that have happened to you, people that have hurt you. You may become sad and not know why. You may become afraid and have melancholy over this feeling of everything going away. You might, like what happened to me the other day was, again, I was watching something on the Disney Channel or something. I don't know. I was watching something, and there was a song that came up from the 70s that I remembered when I was a kid. And all this nostalgia started coming over me, and I started getting really sad. And when I thought about it, I realized that I was sad because that was going away. I knew, I could feel that part of reality, of that part of Earth, that part of history was disappearing. That we were going to enter a world where that isn't going to be our history. When we have kids, grandkids in the new world, they're going to ask us things like, so what was internet? So what were phones? So what was that? They're going to ask all kinds of stuff that is just, I don't understand. What is a movie star? How could somebody be more popular than anybody else? Why is their art more important than what, people do here in our hometown, in our village? The musicians here that play for us, why is there somebody that's more important than, they won't be able to understand it. There won't be anything like, Emmys or Oscars or, none of that. And the thought of losing that, of that going away, made me very sad. Not because I'm attached to it, but it's because it was my understanding of Earth. I knew that my Earth was going to go away. And I was feeling very sad about that. And this is a normal thing. When you're saying goodbye to something you've lived with for a long time, when you're breaking up with somebody, even if it's a bad relationship, there's going to be some sadness. You're going to remember some things that you like that you're going to have to mourn over. So when the energy hits, there are things that if you're angry, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious or uncomfortable, it means you're fighting the energy. And on an unconscious level, you're fighting the energy because your unconscious mind thinks that you'll die. A real common feeling is this feeling that you're going to disappear. And it's true. You will disappear from this world. Each time we get hit with one of these waves, we get closer and closer. We shift closer and closer up. The way it has been described to me is that it's like, it's like a thread. Think of gum. If you're pulling two pieces of gum apart, there's this thread in the middle and it stretches and stretches and stretches and then it breaks. This is what's happening. And for a while, we're going to be able to be in this middle point where we shift back and forth between. We'll go into our negativity and then we'll go into our higher dimensional mindset, and we can be in between these two worlds. But at some point, as they get further and further away, this bridge is going to disappear. It's going to break. And no longer will there be a connection between the two worlds. And you may not know. You may just realize one day that you feel good and the earth has changed and maybe governments start to fall apart and the banks give away all of their money and, you made it to the other one. And for those that fight against this, because that's all they know how to do, when they choose to not leave what they feel comfortable with, which is, I've shared this before, but people complain about all kinds of things. It doesn't mean that they take the action to change them. I told you the story many times about when I was 15 and I saw my friends and I were walking down the street and this car comes by and doesn't stop but slows down, and this woman gets pushed out of the car, moving car. She rolls out of the street and the car goes, down, and we can't believe what's happening. Long story short, she was being abused by whoever this was, her boyfriend or whomever. And she had people defending her. The guy came back and tried to get her back in the car. And, by this time I was just a kid, but there was adults that were protecting her and saying, and threatening this guy, And back then, of course, we didn't have cell phones. We couldn't just call the police. Somebody had to take her in a car and drive her to the police station or drive her somewhere where we could call the cops. And people were saying, come on with us. There's a police station just down the road. Come with us. You'll be safe. I promise you've got nothing to worry about. And what did she do? She got back in the car with the guy. She had every opportunity to free herself from this abuse. No doubt in my mind that guy would have gone to jail. There was 20 people that would have been more than happy to go up and testify and have plenty of evidence to get a restraining order. She would have been fine. She got back in the car with him because, whatever happened to her as a kid, she has been taught that her survival depended on being with an abusive person. That's all she knows. And to move beyond that would be so frightening and so painful. She wasn't willing to do that. And that's what is happening to us. People are talking about, you can go anywhere on YouTube, anywhere on forums, and you'll see no shortage of people complaining about. The stuff that's coming back to me from other countries, like places in Europe, we hear about what's going on in China, things that were going on, in our country. Where I'm at now in Australia, I left because I was afraid they were going to start locking people up and putting them in, COVID prison camps. And I left for 13 months because of that. So there's no shortage of people who talk about how horrible things are becoming in our world. But that doesn't mean that they have the ability to let go of that and move past it. This is why working the 12 steps to 5D is really important. And it's very interesting. You look at my channel, you look at the recent videos, the videos that have the most views are not the 12 steps. 12 steps have the least amount of views. And they will give you the ability to have the power to choose to shift if you want to do that. But it means you have to look at yourself. It means you have to look at your anger, your fear, your self-pity, your unresolved feelings. You have to look at it. If you're not willing to do that, so if you're not willing to do that, it's going to be more difficult to relax into the energy. Again, when I get hit with the energy, I have very clear choices. My body wants to initially get anxious and upset and angry, and then I go, I'm fighting the shift, and I'll go straight into the Hool breath. If you don't know what it is, you can go look it up. Hool breath. I go straight into the Hool breath. And I immediately feel myself go and comfortably go into that state of bliss. Okay, what else did I want to talk about today? It makes you wonder, when you think about the rainbow, how many other higher octaves are there? Are there people who will shift to a 6D or 7D, 8th dimensional Earth? I'm not opposed to believing that, and that's an interesting thought. At this point, having been to what I think is 5D, I think I'll stick with that for now. How will life change in the new Earth? Well, you have some power over this. And this has been told to me over and over again. The first times that I was asking, when is this solar flash going to hit, meaning the event that will change everything, I got an answer I did not like at all. And the answer was, it'll come when you decide it will. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear on August 10th, 3 p.m., a limousine will show up and go off into the sky and take you to the new Earth. That's not what they keep telling me. They keep telling me it'll happen when you decide. Well, what will this new Earth be like? They'll say, well, what do you want it to be like? You decide. You can create it now. Go and create it. So here's what I do know. The things that define the aspects of the third dimension that we don't like won't be at that higher vibrational level. I don't know I don't know if life will have, what difficulties or challenges there will be. I can't imagine any dimension where there isn't some kind of challenge that you have to work through, whether it's blissful or otherwise, I don't know. But I do know that at that higher level, as I've said, anything associated with the negative stuff, anger, hatred, resentment, judgment, self-hatred, self-devaluation, insecurity, lack of self-love, all of those things, inability to be loved, unwillingness to allow people to love you, all of that, all those things won't be up there. Because in order to be in that state and have that energy flow through you, it's impossible. I'm telling you from personal experience, it's impossible to be, in a predatory mindset. You can't be in that and have anger towards somebody or want to abuse somebody or take advantage of somebody. You also aren't in a needy state of needing somebody to take care of you, needing people to love you. You don't have that, because that's just the flip side of the same coin. By the way, that is a predatory mindset. You think it's not. You think you're just needy. I just need people to love me and I'll do whatever it takes for them to love me. That's a manipulative mindset. And it's the flip side of, I'm going to force people to love me and I'm going to take control. It's the exact same thing. That's why those two go together. The codependents who are needy and want to please find abusive, narcissistic people because they relate to the emptiness within each other. It's like glue, it brings them together. So none of that is going to be there, which means there will not be any predatory financial system. The financial system we have is absolutely a form of slavery. Period. End of discussion. There's nothing to say more about that. All you have to do is, I came to this awareness just last year, and I don't know why it took me so late in life to come to this awareness. But let's just, it was because I was getting rid of a car. And at one point, I realized that, I had taken out a car loan, and I had $20,000 left on the car loan. And I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just cash that in. I'll sell the car, and then I will, somehow cash in. I can't remember. It made sense at the time. Until I realized that, wait a second, that's not how this works. In other words, I was going to keep the loan and keep paying on the loan, but instead of having the car, I was going to trade out the car for the cash that it was worth, which was like $20,000 left over. And it didn't dawn on me that you can't do that. And then I realized that banks really have no interest in helping you. Because, when you lend somebody, when you get a loan for a car, you're not buying a car. You say you're buying a car. You're going to tell people, I'm going to buy a car. But you're not buying a car. The bank is buying the car. And they own it. And you're going to pay them payments for what they paid for. And you're going to pay interest on top of that. And that interest becomes unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of interest that banks charge for car loans, for house mortgages. It's absolutely unbelievable. So you're going to be paying them back, and it's going to take you a long time just to pay off the interest, and then you'll pay back the loan. And by the time you pay off that loan, your car will be completely worthless. What I realized is that the banks own the car. They buy the car, and then you have to pay them back. But if you pay off half of the loan and something happens, you get sick, you break your leg, something happens where you can't go to work and make money, the bank isn't going to go, oh, you know what? We'll keep the car since we paid for it. But since you paid for half of it, we'll give you your half back in cash. They're never going to do that. They're not interested in breaking even. So if you buy a $30,000 car and you've paid off $15,000 or $20,000 of it, and you can't make the payments, they now own the car, and you have nothing, but you've paid $20,000 for nothing. That's theft. Same thing with a house. You buy a 30-year mortgage on a house, you pay off the house for 15 years, you lose your job, you're not going to get $15,000 or whatever it is. You're not going to get 15 years of payments back. They're not even going to give you a quarter of it. You're not going to get a cent back from them. They will have taken all of the money that you gave them, plus the interest, and on top of that, you're responsible for all of the upkeep on the house and the car. So they're not going to pay you back for any of the repairs that you've put into the house. They're not going to give you any money back. They're going to take all of your money and the thing that you supposedly own, and then they're going to go and sell it to somebody else, and they'll get all of that money plus whatever money and interest you gave them. So since that is a predatory way of functioning, that's not going to be in the fifth dimension. There's not going to be any banks. There's not going to be any need to be afraid of anybody, even being uncomfortable and shy. Because when you're in that state, you feel everybody's essence. You feel everybody's soul. You can feel that you are part of them and they are part of you. You can see beyond their physical features, and you can see and feel their soul. And you see them as infinite beings. You might even have awarenesses of past lives that you've had with them. These are the kinds of things that happen in higher dimensions. We're not going to have to worry about hospitals. We're not going to have to worry about medicine. You're not going to have to worry about dying of ridiculous, stupid diseases. Because the awareness that our body is simply a frequency means that you can simply adjust your own internal frequency, and that you'll have access to your emotional well-being. You'll have access to your emotional state. So you'll be able to shift your emotional state, your psychological state, so that the frequency of your body comes into an accurate frequency, because that's all it is. Illness means that your frequency is out of balance with the frequency of wherever you are. We could do that now in the third dimension, but in order for that to happen, people would have to be willing to look and take full responsibility for all of their conscious and unconscious feelings, and most people don't. And I'm here to tell you that from my experience looking at this, people who die of illnesses like cancer, heart disease, things like that, it's not from a disease. The disease is the symptom that they have unresolved psychological, emotional issues that when you don't resolve them, they bring your body's frequency out of alignment. And that shows up as a flaw in the manifestation of your body. And in the fifth dimension, people will know that. You'll be able to go to a healer, and a healer will be able to use energy, and you will be able to feel the emotional things within you that need to shift. And you will allow yourself to shift. You'll be able to understand, you'll be able to connect directly to plants. Plants are going to be something that people can communicate with. You'll be able to communicate with all forms of life. These are just some of the things that I see coming. There's not going to be any country boundaries. There's not going to be any armies. There's not going to be any need for police. There's not going to be any need for any kind of government. People are not going to be dependent on any outside source for their food, for their clothing. They're not going to be, nobody's going to need any access to an outside energy source like electricity or natural gas. We will be able to take energy directly out of the environment. We will be able to create or learn how to use existing technologies that humans have and extraterrestrials have, which interface with your consciousness. Sort of like AI is trying to be, but instead of AI, artificial intelligence, which doesn't have any consciousness. It will be technologies that work directly with the quantum field consciousness. These are just some of the things that are coming when we get to the next world. When will this 5D window close? I don't have a date for this, and this isn't a prophecy. My guess is it's going to close when the solar maximum comes to an end. And the solar maximum is forecast to end 2025, 2026. Interestingly enough, a lot of people who have had shamanic visions or lucid dreams or whatever, they have said those same dates, that there will come a point when the separation is complete, and the year 2025 has come up numerous times. Again, that's not a prediction, but it makes perfect sense because the solar maximum is going to end 2025, 2026, somewhere around there. So if the solar wave event is actually the solar maximum, and the solar wave event will culminate in everything moving up to the next level, which means the Earth shifting. If the Earth shifts, it means that the other part of it's going to go down to a lower level. That makes sense. And I've heard the same date. I think somebody shared with me a dream or something they had where they went to, Earth was in a completely different state. Imagine the lockdowns of 2021, 2022. Imagine that being worldwide. People were talking about that. Everybody was huddled together in masses, and they couldn't go outside, and all of that, and the color was darker, and things were just less vibrant, and it was a very unpleasant place to be. And the date that he was given was 2025. I think it was E. So that would make sense. 2025 might be the end. It's not a prophecy. I'm not here to do that. I don't need that, but if that's helpful to you. So, no more time to screw around. It's time to take full responsibility. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect. If you have a lot of pain, if you have a lot of sadness, if you have a lot of unresolved issues, there are things you can do. Therapy is one of them. My personal preference is 12-step work. I would say that probably 75% of people watching my channel qualify for one of the 12-step programs. Alcoholics Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Codependence Anonymous, Adult Children of Alcoholics, and Adult Children of Dysfunctional Families. I mean, how many people on here didn't come from a dysfunctional family? Raise of hands, I don't see very many. Gambling Anonymous, Love Addicts Anonymous. There's no shortage of 12-step programs out there, and it is my belief that, again, on my channel, the majority of you qualify for one of them. You don't want to do that? I'm giving you free 12-step videos. You have to go watch them. Not just watch them, you have to do them. You want more? Then do the practices that I teach. You want direct guidance? Then stop screwing around with this nonsense about I don't have the money right now and maybe later and I'll do a little bit of that. I mean, I just don't think this is the time to screw around and be petty about anything. If you want something, go get it. If there's something on my channel that you want, go get it. And if you subscribe to the 90-day challenge, if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever the hell you want. But my suggestion to everybody, don't make any decisions based on money. Don't make any decisions based on career. Because if what I'm saying is true, everything, people are going to be working towards some career. I mean, think about all the doctors and the lawyers and, all the people that are not going to have a career because it won't be needed. They'll be fine. They'll have to figure something else out, but it won't be needed. The one thing that is true in this world and in the coming world is what I teach in the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. If you go get that book or listen to it, go get that book. You can find it on Amazon, Audible, Kindle. That little booklet, that's going to be the same in the next world. In the next world, the answer to all problems or difficulties will be the same as it is now. Find out what your soul wants to achieve, which will be associated with your joy. And go do that. Here, it's very hard. Here, the narrative wants to talk you out of it. In the fifth dimensional world, everybody's going to want to support you in that. So everybody's going to help you. It'll be a lot easier then. But if you want to get a head start on how to get to that place now, read that book. This isn't like Christianity where if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to go to hell. However, if what I'm being told is true, you will be given a choice. And if you choose based on your false self-protection mechanism associated with your need to stay small and angry and fearful and running away from your pain, you will choose to drop down because that in your mind will be less painful than going through all of the fear and the discomfort of completely letting go and shifting. counterintuitive, but I've seen it enough that I know that that makes sense to me. So the end result is that in the beginning, I didn't like this idea of Earth separating into two because I couldn't tolerate the thought of some people being allowed to go and other people's not being allowed to go. But I have been alive long enough to see that even if you hand people, you give them the tools to change their life, many people will choose not to do it because they're more comfortable being in pain because they understand it. And they don't understand being free. And they don't like the fear that comes when you let go of your control of your reality. So that I can accept, that people will choose it even though it's obviously not the best way to go. All right. I think I got through everything I wanted to talk to you about. So again, as always, if you want the real stuff, go here to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and you'll see this page here. When you subscribe and you see those boxes there, you see right above where it says Guided Interdimensional Meditation, you can see Lightning Qigong, you can see 90-Day. If you click on those, that'll take you directly to those videos. You press play, you'll be taught the triune energy practice. I don't think anybody else in the world has done it, where you've combined Qi, which is life force energy, with Kundalini, which is higher dimensional consciousness energy and chakras, and the lightning center of the heart, which is the power to destroy negativity. I feel very confident nobody in history has ever taken all these three energies and put them into one practice. You can be among the first in history to experience that here at thunderwizard.com and subscribing. All right. And of course, my books, including Interdimensional Revolution and Extraterrestrials Coming to Earth, you can find on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. Interdimensional Meditation course can be found up here at thunderwizard.com as well as on the free channel in the playlists. You have access to everything now, courses.thunderwizard.com, everything else. That's it. Take a look at all that. I'm only interested in taking questions. I'm only interested in taking questions from people who are subscribed. I was going to get into the secret of God, but I'll just make that a whole video in and of itself. I've already talked about it in other videos. I'll save that for another video. So let's see. Are there any questions from any subscribers? I don't see any. None. All right. Well, very good. Krista says, I finally ordered your book. I have more than one. So which one? I have something like 25 or 30 books. But I'm happy. I hope that whatever book you got is helpful for you. Thank you all for showing up. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Again, another solar storm is going to be hitting today. Keep your eyes open with this nonsense that's going on with the UFO hearings. Again, you are being lied to. What you're being told by those hearings is that there's a secret UFO crash retrieval program. That is not what the whistleblowers are talking about. I'm not talking about David Grush. He is a plant for the CIA. He is a liar. The real narrative is that there are at least 1,000 whistleblowers who want to reveal to the world that there is a secret human space program, that there are everything you can imagine that ETs have, we already have, and we're using them against humans to do false alien abductions, to do human trafficking, drug trafficking, all kinds of violence. And there's a likelihood that that will be used against humans in the future if these whistleblowers are not allowed to come to the forefront. So anything you hear on News Nation or anything else talking about the secret UFO retrieval program, that is a lie. They're pretending to get ready to disclose the truth when in reality they're getting you set up for a fake alien invasion. I don't know if you're subscribed. I don't recognize you, so I'm only taking questions from those who are subscribed to the thunderwizard.com Patreon channel. So other than that, again, the reason for that is, again, I most of the questions that people ask are usually very superficial questions. They haven't watched enough of my videos. You still haven't let me know. I'll give you a couple more seconds to let me know if you are subscribed. You are subscribed. You're subscribed to the 90-day challenge. All right, I will take your word for it. You say, the higher dimensions we go, the better. God, please do me a favor, write whole questions. That's not, write a verb. Are you asking me? Write out a full question. Don't be lazy about your question. What's the highest and best dimensions I can go? I mean, again, I love you. I'm glad you're subscribed. I love you on my channel. These are too general and too superficial questions. I can't answer that for you. I've only been to, a version of 5D. So, the question itself shows an immaturity. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Immature people want the best. You don't even know if you can handle the next one. You don't even know if you can handle the amount of energy you're going to be given. And you want to know what the best one is? That tells me you haven't experienced anything yet. So spend more time doing this. When you get to the point where you've mastered every single one of those energies in that thing, then, and I have. You can't really, truth is no human can master them. You can only get to a degree of mastery. I'm barely able to function at all in the 5D. So to ask that question means you don't understand, you don't respect and appreciate what we're talking about. To ask that kind of childish, which one is better, which one is best, it means that you haven't even experienced a little bit of it. It means you don't appreciate it. So I encourage you to do more work, do more of the practices, see if you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into those practices. Are you, how much of it are you doing per day? I don't know. Maybe you can put a little more time into it. And it's okay to be wherever you are. You don't need to be anything other than where you are. But I think learn to appreciate things that you are getting that are different. Learn to acknowledge and give respect to that. You ask me again, these questions make it sound like you haven't listened to what I said. Will we be in 5D or higher dimensions forever and no longer have to return to 3D or reincarnate? Again, how many questions you want to ask me? Will we no longer have to return to 3D? No, you won't. Reincarnation happens on every dimensional level. You can have a body all the way, as I understand it. This isn't coming from personal experience. This is coming from actually listening to physicists. And according to some physicists I've researched, you can have a physical body up through the 8th or the 9th dimension, even though you'll still be like a god. You can be in multiple places, multiple timelines, but you can still have a physical body. But everybody that has a physical body chooses to incarnate. And every time you incarnate, that's reincarnation. So your assumption that reincarnation is bad is an inaccurate assumption. And your assumption that reincarnation is something you're forced to do is also not accurate. There's no such thing as forced reincarnation. Every time you've incarnated, you did it on purpose. You chose to do it. So I love the fact that you're subscribed, but the question tells me you haven't even watched my videos about reincarnation. So I encourage you to watch more of my videos. So you can, these questions, what is reincarnation? How does it happen? These I answer. And it makes me wonder if you've read my books. Interdimensional Revolution and Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, because I talk about all this stuff in dimensions in those books, and your questions tell me. Okay, so God, you didn't tell me the truth. Now I realize why I'm frustrated with you. You say I'm subscribed to your channel. I didn't say. I only want to hear questions from people who are subscribed to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. So you either weren't listening or you outright lied to me. Either way, I don't like it. And that's why I can tell from your questions you don't understand. You haven't spent enough time watching my videos. So from here on out, forgive me for, this is why I don't do it, because I get angry and I get frustrated and I don't like myself when I get frustrated. I'm only going to take questions from people who are subscribed to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong and or who are my apprentices, because everybody else usually does this, asks superficial questions about things I've already talked about or written about. So guys, if you love my channel, here's how you show me how you love my channel. Watch the videos, watch the playlists, read the books. Coming on and just watching the channel, you're subscribed to the channel and you show up when I have a live stream every now and then. That's liking and appreciating my channel. You love my channel. You don't have to love it. But if I loved somebody's channel, I would read their books. I would subscribe to their subscription packages. I would be doing the practices. According to you, you're just subscribed to my channel. And you probably haven't done those things I just mentioned. You probably are not doing the 90-day challenge. You're probably not reading my books, right? So educate yourself first, because then when you ask me a question, I'm going to have a lot more willingness and desire to go into depth. Okay? All right. And it means you got to listen. So when I say subscribe to thethunderwizard.com, it doesn't mean subscribe to the channel. So two most important things in life: pay attention and put effort. So God, I invite you to do that. Pay more attention, put more effort, and I welcome you to indulge in the resources this channel has. Thank you so much, my friends, for showing up. My apologies for getting off track. Now you know why I don't like taking questions anymore. And again, if you want what this channel has to offer, it means you got to do the work. You got to take advantage of the materials. And I guarantee you, every single person who has worked with me and has followed my suggestions diligently to the letter, every single one of them, their lives have transformed. So I make that invitation to you as well. Before I sign off, please, I encourage you to watch the 12 Steps to 5D videos that I've uploaded and do them. You will be very happy you did. All right, that's it. Thanks a lot, guys. I wish you all the best. See you all next time.